boxing world is buzzing louder than it has in years, and all of it revolves around a single question. What happens when Jake Paul steps into the ring against Gervonta "Tank" Davis? This isn't the kind of fight that can be dismissed as just another exhibition or brushed aside as a celebrity stunt. It's something far bigger, something that has already divided fans, fighters, and legends of the sport. On one side, you have Jake Paul, a man who went from YouTube videos and viral pranks to selling out arenas and knocking out professional fighters. On the other side, you have Tank Davis, an undefeated lightweight champion with thunder in his fists and a professional pedigree that is nearly unmatched in today's game. Their collision is a moment that asks, is this spectacle or is it the evolution of boxing? The reason this fight matters so much is because it represents two very different worlds colliding in the same ring. Jake Paul has built his reputation on disrupting the establishment. He has been mocked, doubted, criticized, yet every time he steps into the ring, people tune in. Millions who never cared about boxing suddenly become glued to their screens, curious to see if this YouTuber can hang with real fighters. Gervonta Davis, on the other hand, is as real as it gets. He's one of the most feared punchers in the sport, a fighter groomed in the traditional system, tested in championship bouts, and proven against elite competition. Put them together, and you get more than just a fight. You get a cultural earthquake. What makes this fight even more fascinating is how the greats of boxing have reacted to it. Mike Tyson, the youngest heavyweight champion in history and one of the most intimidating men to ever step into the ring, has repeatedly shown support for Jake Paul. Tyson has said that people underestimate Jake, that he's not just a social media star, but someone who has genuinely worked on his craft. Tyson, a man who understands what it takes to survive in the brutal world of boxing, has surprised many by defending Jake's right to be taken seriously. In Tyson's eyes, Jake Paul may not be a world champion, but he's a fighter nonetheless, and that respect carries weight. On the flip side, Floyd Mayweather Jr., the undefeated legend and one of the greatest defensive boxers of all time, has naturally leaned toward Davis. Floyd has worked closely with Tank, mentored him, and promoted him, and he often reminds people that Tank is not just another fighter, he's a generational talent. For Floyd, this isn't even a contest. In his view, Jake Paul is walking into a storm he has no chance of surviving. The combination of Tank's timing, power, and professional pedigree is something Jake has never experienced. Floyd has hinted that while exhibitions are fun, stepping in front of Tank Davis, even in a non-title setting, is like playing with fire. Then there's Manny Pacquiao, a global icon whose name is etched in boxing history as the only 8-division world champion. Pacquiao has been a little more cautious with his words. He has acknowledged Jake Paul's hustle, his courage, and his ability to bring attention to boxing. But Pacquiao also values the sanctity of the sport. For him, these kinds of fights blur the line between entertainment and professional legitimacy. Pacquiao respects the effort, but he has made it clear that a man like Gervonta Davis operates on a completely different level of skill and danger. Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing for over a decade, has echoed similar thoughts. For Canelo, Jake Paul represents a circus act that sells tickets, but he doesn't see Jake as a true fighter worthy of sharing the same conversation with the elites. When asked about these exhibitions, Canelo has dismissed them as distractions. Still, he understands their appeal. Fans crave drama, and when you mix controversy with real skill, you get fireworks. Oscar de la Hoya, a Hall of Famer and promoter who has seen every side of the sport, takes a different angle. He admits that fights like this bring new energy, that they attract younger audiences who might never care about traditional boxing. For de la Hoya, it's business and entertainment, and while he doesn't believe Jake Paul can beat Gervonta Davis, he does recognize the value of these matchups in keeping boxing alive in a crowded entertainment world. The reactions of legends matter because they set the tone. When Tyson says Jake deserves respect, fans listen. When Mayweather says Tank is untouchable, it reinforces the narrative of Davis as a destroyer. When Pacquiao and Canelo warn about protecting boxing's integrity, it adds gravity to the debate. This fight is not happening in isolation, it's happening under the spotlight of history, with the greats watching and judging. But beyond the legends, the fans themselves are the heartbeat of this event. Social media is a war zone of opinions. On Twitter, hashtags like #PaulVsDavis and #BoxingFuture trend for days. Some fans post memes of Jake Paul being crushed by Tank's left hand. Others imagine a shocking upset where Jake lands a miracle punch. TikTok is filled with training montages, edits, and debates. Sports betting sites have Davis as the heavy favorite, with some odds makers giving him as much as a 90% chance of winning. Yet the money coming in on Jake Paul is significant because fans know that with Jake, anything can happen. The possibility of chaos is always in play. So what could this fight actually look like once the bell rings? Imagine the opening round. Jake Paul, taller, trying to use his jab, circling, keeping distance. Tank Davis, smaller but far more explosive, stalking, waiting for the right moment to explode with a counter. Jake's plan would likely be survival early, keeping Tank at bay, trying to frustrate him, stretching the fight into later rounds. For Jake to win, he needs to avoid danger, use his size, clinch when necessary, and land the occasional power shot to earn respect. For Davis, the strategy is much simpler. Close the distance, cut off the ring, and detonate bombs until the YouTuber crumbles. There are three major scenarios people talk about. The first is the obvious one. Tank Davis wins by knockout within the first 5 rounds. This is the scenario most experts predict. Davis has knocked out world champions, men with far more experience and resilience than Jake Paul. If Tank lands clean, it could be a short night. The second scenario is more intriguing. Jake Paul manages to survive, turning the fight into an awkward, drawn-out affair. He uses clinches, movement, and his size advantage to avoid being caught clean, dragging the fight into the later rounds. If that happens, the judges may be forced to score, and depending on the exhibition rules, it could even go to the fans to decide. The third scenario, the most shocking, is Jake Paul landing the unthinkable. Boxing is unpredictable, and even the best can be caught off guard. If Jake, with his heavy right hand, manages to clip Davis, the internet would break in half. The world would erupt, and boxing history would have a moment that nobody could have written. Each of these scenarios carries different implications. If Tank steamrolls Jake, it reinforces the divide between professionals and entertainers. If Jake survives, it strengthens his credibility and forces the boxing world to take him just a little more seriously. If Jake wins, it could be one of the biggest upsets not just in boxing, but in sports history. The Legends' predictions reflect this spectrum. Tyson leans toward the possibility that Jake can survive and maybe shock the world. Mayweather insists it's a massacre waiting to happen. Pacquiao and Canelo caution against even entertaining the idea of an upset, though they admit fans should be prepared for anything. De La Hoya, ever the promoter, says whatever happens, the event itself is a victory for boxing's relevance. And then there's the question of what happens after. If Jake Paul manages to last against Gervonta Davis, his next fights will only grow bigger. His brand will skyrocket, his opponents more credible, his status more cemented. If he loses badly, people may mock him, but they'll still watch, because controversy sells. For Tank Davis, the stakes are different. A win is expected. It adds little to his legacy, but a loss, even in an exhibition, could damage his aura of invincibility. That's what makes this fight so fascinating. It's not just about who wins or loses, but about perception, legacy, and the future of boxing. It's about a sport caught between tradition and innovation, between gatekeepers and disruptors, between legends and influencers. The reactions of Tyson, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Canelo, and De La Hoya are just echoes of a larger debate playing out in real time. What is boxing supposed to be? A pure sport for only the best, or an entertainment platform that evolves with the culture? When the bell finally rings, all the debates will boil down to punches thrown and punches landed. For Jake Paul, it's a chance to prove he belongs. For Gervonta Davis, it's a chance to remind the world of the gulf that exists between an entertainer and a professional killer in the ring. For the fans, it's a chance to witness something wild, unpredictable, and unforgettable. And so, as the countdown continues, one thing is certain: no matter how you feel about Jake Paul, no matter how convinced you are of Gervonta Davis's superiority, you will be watching. Because fights like this, love them or hate them, capture the imagination in a way few sporting events ever do. This is not just boxing. This is a spectacle, a gamble, a collision of worlds. The legends have weighed in, the odds have been set, the fans are ready, and soon, the truth will be revealed under the lights.